Many years ago, I pre-visualized 2 compositions on 6x17 format that I just never got around to doing. Part of it was that I knew the subjects weren't going anywhere, so there was no rush really. But also, I guess the compositions just needed to bake in my head a little longer before I was ready to tackle them. But now I'm ready to strike them off my list. By the way, my eyes are up here. I know this Ace Ventura shirt is a little distracting, but try to focus. So let me tell you about these 2 compositions. Here in Orange County, there are 2 landmarks that, to me, epitomize the area. When I see these 2 landmarks, I know I can't be anywhere else but in Orange County. One is in the east, and the other is in the west. In the east, we have Saddleback Mountain. Perfectly named because it looks just like a saddle, and with its tallest peak at just over 5,600 feet, it's not a huge mountain, but in terms of Orange County, it's an unmistakable icon. In fact, some businesses are named after Saddleback, and even the local community college is called Saddleback College. This, to me, is a landmark that's kind of near and dear to my heart because whenever I'm coming back to Orange County from being out in the high desert, like by myself, camping alone, when I see Saddleback from behind as I'm making my way back towards the coast, as soon as I see it, I know I'm going to be in my nice, warm, cozy bed within 30 to 45 minutes. So it's always kind of a beacon of like, you're almost home, buddy. Hang in there. To the west, we have Catalina Island, which is part of the Channel Islands off the California coast. And Catalina Island is another one of those shapes where when I see it off in the distance, I know exactly where I am. It's an iconic shape that you can see from just about any beach in Orange County. And so what I'm picturing is 2 panoramic compositions, one highlighting Saddleback, one highlighting Catalina. And I really like that juxtaposition because we have mountains and coast, and nothing gets more Southern California than that. And I'm picturing them as very similar compositions, very similar color palettes. I want both of them to be very simple, just shape and line. I don't want a bunch of distraction of color and texture and all sorts of stuff, just very simple. So like the Saddleback shot, I basically just want some layers. Foothills, a little more foothills maybe, and then iconic Saddleback Mountain rising up out of the haze. These compositions are going to be almost monochromatic. I'm picturing just very faint gradations, faint changes in shades of almost white, but I want them to have a little faint warm tone. Now, shooting them isn't going to be particularly technically difficult, just need the right lens and the right lighting. What's going to be difficult is finding the right place to stand for the Saddleback shot and also getting the weather and the lighting to cooperate to all come together to give me the conditions I need. So in terms of knowing where to stand for Saddleback, I'm doing some scouting right now digitally. I'm just basically going through Google Maps, scouting throughout Orange County, places I've been, places I've driven past that I think might have a clear shot of Saddleback without any obstructions, no power lines or anything. So I'm just going through here, checking out street view, shopping centers, parks, streets, areas where I could maybe stand and get a good shot of Saddleback. And then I'm looking at street view to see if it has a good view. And then when I find a spot that seems promising, I take the GPS coordinates and transfer them over to Gaia GPS, which is an app I have on my phone to record waypoints of potential photo spots. So I mark the GPS there, add a waypoint, save it as a potential spot to take one of these shots, and then I'll be able to access that on my phone when I'm out there. I'm actually going to head out today and check out some of the spots. Hopefully the first 1 or 2 spots are promising and I don't have to spend a whole lot of time looking for just the right angle. But I'm just going to mark a few more waypoints and then we'll hit the road. Okay, so we're starting with 3 locations that I've marked for today. And I know about all 3 of them because of previous architectural jobs I've done. So these are all buildings that I've shot before, and when I was there I noted that the parking lot had a good view of Saddleback, because again, I've been thinking about this composition for years. So we're going to check those out first. Hopefully it doesn't go any further than that, but if none of the 3 give me anything worthwhile, then we're going to have to start coming up with a plan B and maybe C and D. All right, location number 1, and close but no cigar. I'm at the top of a parking structure here in, I think, Laguna Niguel, one of those. And it's a good view of Saddleback, but fortunately it's blocked by a UPS building. So I'm hoping I can go a little bit further down the road, and then maybe I'll clear that UPS building and that one will work out. Let's hope. All right, this is another parking lot for building down the road. Let's see what we got. Nope. Too many trees blocking it. Bummer. Well, I think we may have a winner. Nice clear view right up there. Nice. Views out to Saddleback don't get much more unobstructed than that. Nice clear view. I also like this location because this office building completely vacant, so I'm not gonna have to worry about looky-loos or security bothering me when I'm trying to take photos. Now, I am of course using my Mark II Artist Viewfinder app to fine-tune my composition. And I can see that even with a 400mm lens, which is my longest focal length for 6x17, it's still not quite as tight as I would like. So that means one of two things. Either I'm going to have to crop it to get a little closer, or I'm gonna have to get physically closer. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attempt this location, attempt this photo, and then if I feel like it's not tight enough or I don't wanna crop it, I'm gonna have to do a second round of scouting and find someplace closer. But hopefully this spot will work out because this really is a gorgeous view. Man, it's hot out. Good thing I'm wearing my tropical outfit. Keep me cool. Well, be careful what you wish for. I wanted haze, but this is a bit much. Can't even see my subject. Pretty driving in though. On the 133 it was all engulfed in fog. That was real cool looking, but from up here, I don't even have a subject to shoot. I had my camera set up. I put on my Fujinon 400mm. So I'm all ready to go, but as of now, I can't even see anything to start setting up my composition. So it's looking like a bust. But I'm tentatively optimistic because as the sun rises, this kind of haze and morning cloud cover tends to burn off a bit. And if it burns off just the right amount, I'll have just the right amount of haze. So I guess now it's just a waiting game. A waiting game it certainly was. I waited and waited and waited some more, but the weather never ended up cooperating like I hoped it would. The sun broke through a bit, which actually looked pretty cool, but I never got the clear view of Saddleback that I needed. I knew that getting the weather to cooperate was going to be the most difficult part of this project, but still, did it really have to start with failure? Well, I woke up at 6:15 and it was cloudy out. So I went back to bed for an hour, and when I woke up, it was still cloudy out. So I hung around for a half hour, see if it would burn off, but it's still cloudy out. The marine layer has been relentless this year. We're into September and it's still cloudy every morning. But I'm here anyway, trying my luck, hoping it's going to burn off. But I'll tell you one thing, I ain't getting out of my car until I can start to see Saddleback coming through the mist. Okay, well, Saddleback has just barely started peeking through the haze. And it's looking pretty close to what I had in mind, so I think I'm gonna go for it. Only took 3 hours later than I expected. And you will have noticed that I changed my position a bit. I'm in a much tighter spot, a little further down the parking lot. I did that to clear some trees that were bugging me off to the left. So hopefully it's all coming together. I gotta decide if I want to push the film or not. Yeah, I think I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna need a little extra contrast in this. It's such a low contrast scene. I'm not sure I've ever felt less confident about a series of photos I'm working on. In fact, last night before I was going to bed, I'm just like, why am I doing this? This series is gonna look stupid. It's not gonna work, it's not gonna come together. The whole idea is dumb. But I've learned that, you know, even if it's a picture that maybe isn't gonna work out too well, if you've been thinking about it for a long time, you gotta go out and execute it. Or just decide you're not gonna do it. If you're in this no man's land of like, should I, shouldn't I? It's just taking up space in your brain. So I either needed to ditch it completely or go out and do it. And I figured, what the hell, let's go out and do it. Because maybe, just maybe, it'll look as good as I hope. So this picture actually came out pretty good. Or it's terrible, but I love it. Or I hate it. I don't know. Look, I took this picture like 3 weeks ago now, and I still can't decide if I like it. I actually toyed with scrapping this entire video like half a dozen times, because I don't know. I just can't make up my mind. I don't know if it's a good shot. I don't know if anyone's going to care about it. Whatever. But I have decided that I think I need to see both pictures finished before I can make a judgment call. So I got to do the Catalina photo before I can really decide if I like this photo. So I am pressing forward. Now, I do feel the need to tell you that I had to do more work on this scan than I've ever done on a negative before. I had to push the negative pretty hard. And I don't normally do that. I'm not a fan of doing that. I don't know why it feels like I'm confessing something. It doesn't matter. It's the workflow is the workflow. However you get the image doesn't really matter. But I do feel the need to tell you that I had to do some work on the file. Number one is the color balance. So I was initially picturing kind of warmish tones, beiges, browns, golds, that kind of thing. And the nature of shooting through this much atmosphere, through this much haze, you're just going to get a blue tone. So I could have used a warming filter when I took the photo, and perhaps I should have, but it didn't even occur to me, if I'm honest, because, well, with print film, you generally don't use chromatic filters. Not that you can't or that you shouldn't, it's just generally photographers don't. Because with print film, the color balance is often adjusted on the back end. So in the dark room, you use color filters in the enlarger to adjust the color balance on the print. When you're scanning, you typically just do it in the scanner software. So I didn't really think to use a warming filter, but whatever the case, I needed to neutralize the blue tones and get it more to that warm tone that I wanted. So using a combination of Silverfast and Lightroom, just the white balance adjustment in Lightroom, I shifted the blue tone that the negative actually was to a more warm tone that I wanted. Now, if I was shooting reversal film, I definitely would have used a warming filter to achieve that, but because it's print film, that's kind of how it's done anyway. Maybe in the future I would use a warming filter even though it's print film, I don't know. But that was number one. The color balance needed to be adjusted. But number two is there just wasn't enough contrast in the image. I did push the film, which was good, so that gave me a little bit of contrast. I actually probably should have pushed it 2 or 3 stops, to be honest, because I needed a lot of contrast. This was very flat lighting, very flat haze, and I needed more separation between the layers. So I put a pretty sharp tone curve on it, much sharper than I would ever really do on a negative, but so be it. You know, whatever it takes to get the image looking how you want, I think is valid. Again, I know it feels like I'm justifying things, whatever. I had to do a bit of a tone curve. I didn't feel too good about it, but the result is much closer to what I was pre-visualizing. So if I wanted to do this without much adjustment in the computer, I probably should have done reversal film and pushed the reversal film even, because I would have needed even more contrast out of that, and used the warming filter, and then the negative, the piece of reversal film, probably would have looked pretty close to what I ended up with. But whatever the case, I ended up with the results I wanted, I think. And it at least puts me in the right direction for doing the Catalina photo, which is next. I haven't been able to execute it yet because it's been real smoky from wildfires here in California, and it's been cloudy as well. So I don't know how long I'm gonna have to wait before the weather and the atmosphere cooperate. But I guess that's next, doing the Catalina photo. So let's fade to black one more time. Well, it's been over 3 months since I started this video. In fact, it's been so long that it's not even shorts weather anymore. It's flannel weather, baby. The weather has not been cooperating. As I mentioned when I was shooting the Saddleback shot, we tend to get a marine layer here in Orange County, which is the overcast cloud cover that comes in from the coast. Comes in at night, stays overnight, sticks around a little bit in the morning, and then it usually burns off. And it's really only terrible in the summer, typically. So, you know, June to early September, May to early September. But this year, man, it's just been going and going and going. It's been like the Energizer Bunny. And in fact, now we're at the very last day of November. And this is one of the first clear days I've seen in a little while. And I have a perfect view off to Catalina here. And my 300 millimeter is going to do the trick here. Don't need 400. In fact, Catalina just barely fits in at 300. But the tricky part here is the sun sets right behind Catalina. So timing on this is going to be a pretty narrow window just after sunset. So I need the sun to drop below Catalina because I can't shoot into the brilliant sun like this right now. I'll get too much flare and you won't even see Catalina anyway. So I need it to drop behind Catalina. That will put it into silhouette, make it glow. With the sky will glow around it, I mean. And I'll actually be able to see that perfect outline of Catalina. I was hoping for absolutely zero clouds over Catalina. I wanted a crystal clear view, but there is some cloud cover way out there. I'm hoping it's not gonna ruin the shot for me. And on this one, I actually am going to use a warming filter, so maybe I can avoid having to do too much correction in the computer. I actually forgot my filter holder in the car, so I'm going to be using this weird modified one I have for my ultra wide. And hopefully it'll... Ugh. Hopefully this will work okay. Just don't knock it, I guess. And this is an 81C filter, which is quite warm. It's got a yellowish tinge to it, which will hopefully cancel out the blue dusk tones. There's a hot spot right where the sun has dropped. I'm just waiting to clear up. Once the sun goes down more, it should be gone. But that cloud is just lighting up a little too much. It's gonna be a distraction. Well, as the sun sets, I realize how much I hate those clouds. I need a clean, smooth sky. That's a hot mess. I don't like it. Clutters up the composition. I'm so ready for this project to be over. And I hate getting to that point on a project. I should be excited about it the whole time, but I'm DONE done. Okay, I'm not done. I'm gonna make this shot happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen tonight. Maybe I'll try it in the morning. It's been 6 months since I started this video. 6 months. I've been working on this video so long that when I started it, not only was it a different season, it was a different year. I've been working on this video so long that when I started it, we had a different president. I've been working on this video so long that when I started it, I was in my early 30s, and now I'm in my mid 30s. That office you saw in the beginning of the video, I don't even have it anymore. This thing's taken way longer than I wanted it to. So needless to say, I really want today to go well. Now, in my defense, the reason this video has taken so long is, well, I didn't want to do it anymore. So I took a break. Needed to clear my head, kind of step back from this project a little bit because it's been a little bit frustrating. So I've come back clear-minded, and I'm trying to approach this with more of a wabi-sabi kind of attitude, embracing the imperfection. So if I don't get a perfect sky, if I have a little bit of cloud cover, I'm just going to try and be okay with that. Because the odds of me getting that perfect sky when my schedule can actually allow for it, I just don't think it's going to happen. So, got to roll with the punches. I'm using a warming filter and a polarizer on this. And the polarizing filter, I'm hoping, is going to cut down the glare off the ocean just a bit, which it's cutting it down just a little bit. But I mean, that glare is insanely bright, man. The reflection off the water, that glare is so bright that I maxed out my meter. Never done that before. I got an EV reading, it went up to 19 2/3, and then it just looped back around, went to 1 EV, 2 EV, 3 EV. So I guess that's 21 EV, 22 EV, 23 EV. But yeah, that's crazy, man. That's super, super bright off the water. So the polarizer will help a little, but there's no way I'm gonna eliminate that completely. So I'm pushing my film 2 stops this time to really get the contrast going. I'm doing f45 at 1/30th. I actually am going to bracket this a few times because this is a real tricky exposure, and I got the extra frame, so why not? The reason this exposure is tricky is because I'm dealing with such subtle gradations in contrast, and also I got this massive glare coming off the ocean. And I got to shade the front of the lens. Ugh. God. All right, it's not that bad. And I certainly achieved the goal of making it look like it's from the same series as the Saddleback shot. And that's because I applied basically the exact same treatment to it in post-production. But there's just one problem. You can barely see Catalina. So this isn't going to work. I knew that glare was going to be a problem. I was really banking on the fact that Catalina would be thrown into silhouette once the sun dropped behind it, so I was pretty much just waiting for that. Now, as I waited for the sun to drop, I became mesmerized by the waves off the coast. Gentle, soothing, rhythmic. So I fired off 2 exposures looking directly out to the open ocean, using my 210mm lens, Kodak Portra 160, and pushed 2 stops yet again. This first exposure focuses on the pattern of the waves. Now you can see by pushing the film, it enhanced grain a lot, and contrast, of course. So it almost looks like a grainy reversal film. This is a little more colorful and contrasty than I normally like to do these days, but I still think this shot is kind of nice. The second exposure I did, however, ended up being my favorite shot from the whole video, I think. I don't know what it is about this photo that I love so much. It's just the mood it gives me. And again, you get that high contrast, high grain look, which I think actually works here. Now on this photo, I also used a 3-stop split neutral density on the sky, just above the top half of the sky, to give that nice smooth gradient down to the horizon. The colors are soft yet punchy, and I like the simplicity of the shot overall. I also like that, if I hadn't told you where I took this photo, you really wouldn't be able to tell. It almost looks Antarctic to me. Funny how my favorite shot from the whole video ended up being one that I didn't even set out to get. But I guess that's just how it goes. And now on to the main event. As the sun dropped, Catalina became more and more clear against the horizon. Now it wasn't a super colorful sunset, which is good news for me because I didn't really want super colorful. And the clouds mostly burned off, although there was a little bit lingering off to the right side of Catalina. So, with some dude chatting me up way too much, evidently unaware or uncaring that I was clearly preoccupied, I fired off an exposure right at sunset. Now, I had never envisioned this photo with the sun in it. I wanted just the outline of Catalina. But looking at it now, I think the sun actually adds a little something to this photo. First off, it kind of breaks up the cloud cover so it doesn't just get lost in the outline of Catalina, but also it adds that Southern California vibe. And the timing on it, with the sun just resting right on the horizon, couldn't have been better. Now, much like the Saddleback shot, I did a little more work on this scan than I'm normally comfortable with, starting off by pushing it to a little bit warmer tone, although I didn't need to push it nearly as hard as the Saddleback shot because of that warming filter I used. And I desaturated it just a bit, and then threw on a very slight tone curve to add some contrast. Now this roll was not pushed at all. I shot it at box speed and developed it normally, and that's because the higher contrast sunset light was enough contrast to work with. In fact, when I scanned it, I had to leave the tone curve very flat in order to prevent it from looking too contrasty. Now, seeing the 2 photos together, I'm pretty happy with them, I think. The more I see the Saddleback shot, the more I like it, and that'll probably happen the same with the Catalina photo. Both of these shots are very, very subtle. They're not pound you in the face, look at me with my bright colors types of photos. Perhaps in time I'll think they're too soft, but that's the look I was going for right now. So I suppose I'm going to call this a success. I had 2 pictures in mind, and they came out reasonably close to my pre-visualization. But, at the very least, I'm done with this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And a big thank you to anyone who's made a contribution to this channel or signed up for an online course. You're the reason I keep doing this.